Hello, my name is Gabriel Willems, and this is my video reflection on the body rituals among the Nasi Rama by Horace Minor. At first, I did not understand that this journal was about Americans. I wrote in my discussion post that modern day Americans would find the Nasi Rama absolutely barbaric. I realized how much of a fool I was. Horace Minor had me exactly where he wanted me. He made me react the way that he wanted me to react. He wrote the paper like a sociological person would have wrote it. Upon realizing that it was about Americans, though, and going back and rereading it, I found it a lot more funny and a lot more self-deprecating. It was very fun. Americans do care immensely about their looks and their health and their finances. Americans spend lots of money trying to de-age themselves. They spend a lot of money on things that they think are wrong about themselves. Thousands of dollars are spent on tans, braces, health products, breast augmentations, weight losses, gyms, and surgeries so that they can look like their idols. They can look like the people they see on TVs. They care immensely about their image. Some people might look at them and think that they are self-centered and that they only care about themselves, but that would not be an accurate statement. To most people, they are more concerned about others and family matters, but Americans are just a little bit more individualistic. This transfers all the way down to their children. The ritual that I want to talk about and hone in on it is the ritual that Americans kick out their children at 18. It is very common in the US for parents and children to separate when the children turn 18. They either go to college or they go to a trade school, they join the army, they do anything to get out of the home of their parents. It is pushed by both parties. Children want to leave their parents, and parents want their children to become financially independent. For the most part, these individuals, when they leave, are unmarried, so single. They might not have the qualifications, but their goal is to get these qualifications, to get the jobs, to get the finances, so that they can be on their own. This might seem very foreign to lots of people outside the US across the world, such as in Asia, South America, Africa, and some places in Europe. In these places, it's very common for multiple generations to live in the same house, under the same roof. It would be a very common sight to see a great-grandparent holding a baby. So great-grandparent, parent, grandparent, children, aunts, uncles, all to live in the same house. It was also very common to be born and to die in the same house. If you read the Nasi Rama, you realize that Americans spend a lot of time in hospitals, but in other cultures, it's very common for things to happen in the house. Historically, in the United States, prior to the 1940s, it was very similar as the rest of the world. From the conception until the 1940s, it was the same thing. Grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, uncles all lived in the same house. And this was due to two primary things. Number one, finances, and number two, morals. Back in the day, it was not as common for a single person to be able to make enough money to be able to support themselves outside of their family unit. This changed in the 1940s as the middle class grew. More and more young people were able to join that middle class and were able to afford these things. Morally, it was also very the same. Prior to 1940, the Americans were very traditional, and they believed that those who were single should not leave the house. It was very immoral, and for sure they should not have been able to live with other people who were single. But these things changed. Things in American history have changed. The ebb and flow of morals has drastically changed since the 1940s. It is very common now for people to live away from home and to move in with their significant other, even if they're not married. According to Dr. Michael J. Rosenfield, there was about a 75 to 40% decrease, or there were 75% of people in 1940 living with their parents who were single and unmarried, and today it's about 40%. So there was a drop from 75% of people to 40% of people. I think that for the most part, it is a good thing. I myself have benefited from leaving my family at 18, but do I think that it should be the norm? I believe there should be a little bit of nuance. It should be a case-by-case basis. I think that even though there are some people who get fantastic jobs, who go to college and get fantastic degrees, and are emotionally available enough and financially good enough to be on their own, that doesn't mean that it should be the status quo, that it should be the norm. Everybody develops differently, and some people may be good at the time, but others might struggle immensely with finances, mental health, friends, family ties, and a sense of belonging. According to Dr. Michael J. Rosenfield, the associate professor of the Department of Sociology at Stanford University, he wrote in a paper, The Independence of Young Adults in a Historical Perspective, that our independence from our families of origin makes us more vulnerable to anxiety and depression. The long-term trends suggest that Americans are less involved in political and social life, and that Americans seem to have fewer friends. So, is moving out of your parents' house a good idea? I think in America, there's a special climate that allows for people to be financially stable enough to move out. But do I think it's good for their mental health? That is not my decision, but I believe that it is something that we should talk about. All right, thank you so much.